For we meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. Despite the striking fact that most of the scientists that the world has ever known are alive and working today, the vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write. The printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it dispels old. New ignorance, new problems, new dangers. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait. But this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested. This country was conquered by those who move forward.
We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. And yet the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike, that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed at home and around the world. This much we pledge and more. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. To those old allies whose cultural and spiritual origins we share, we pledge the loyalty of faithful friends. United, there is little we cannot do. Divided, there is little we can do. For we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. We pledge our word that one form of colonial control shall not have passed away, merely to be replaced by a far more iron tyranny. To those new states whom we welcome to the ranks of the free, we shall always hope to find them strongly supporting their own freedom, and to remember that in the past, those who foolishly sought power by riding the back of the tiger ended up inside. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. To those people in the huts and villages of half the globe, struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves. not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. But this peaceful revolution of hope cannot become the prey of hostile powers. Let all our neighbors know that we shall join with them to oppose aggression or subversion anywhere in the Americas, to assist free men and free governments in casting off the chains of poverty, and let every other power know that this hemisphere intends to remain the master of its own house. To those nations who would make themselves our adversaries, we offer not a pledge, but a request that both sides begin anew the quest for peace. Before the dark powers of destruction engulf all humanity in planned or accidental self-destruction. In an age where the instruments of war have far outpaced, we dare not tempt them with weakness. For only when our arms are sufficient beyond doubt can we be certain beyond doubt that they will never be employed. So let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Let both sides explore what problems unite us, instead of belaboring those problems which divide us and bring the absolute power to destroy other nations under the absolute control of all nations.
If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred.
Let both sides seek to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors. Together, let us explore the stars and encourage the arts and commerce.
Those who came before us made certain that this country rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. The exploration of space will go ahead, whether we join in it or not. And it is one of the great adventures of all time. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won. They must be one and used for the progress of all people.
Let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved. The graves of young Americans who answered the call to service surround the globe. Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind. Will you join in that historic effort? In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
And no nation which expects to be the leader of other nations can expect to stay behind. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. Our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others. All require us to make this effort, to solve these mysteries.
The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Finally, whether you are citizens of America or citizens of the world, ask of us here the same high standards of strength and sacrifice which we ask of you.
For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. And we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom. We shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding. For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force for good or ill depends on man.
With history the final judge of our deeds, let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking his blessing and his help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.